There was no advance on my solo record. There's gotta be some royalty. Christ's sake, it's cold out. I don't even have a winter coat.
You're kidding me. Hey, this kid.
No.
I remember one evening in the pouring rain, and in my heart was an aching pain.
Do you ever think about the future at all?
Don't worry.
With you, I worry.
Well, you shouldn't.
How did you find out about this part?
On the internets, I saw that the Coens were making a movie about the folk scene that involved live music.
How did you audition?
I just came in for the casting director and did 2 scenes, and then I had to send in a song, and then she thought that was good enough to send it to Coens. They thought that was good enough to bring me into the room.
Did you get called? And how did...
I got called to come in, and then I did a couple scenes, and I played a couple songs, and then a month went by, and then I finally got the call, and Joel Coen called me himself and said, "We'd love for you to do the role."
Were you playing it cool on the phone when you heard the call, or did you just go crazy?
Yeah, I just started screaming like a girl.
Yeah?
Hey, it's me, Llewyn.
Yeah?
Can I come up?
No.
Explain the cat.
What's its name? I don't know.
Cat kind of steals the show in some scenes. I mean, what were some of the challenges of maybe working with a cat throughout this?
Well, you can't really train cats, so you had 4 or 5 different ones with different personalities, depending on what you needed for the scene. So if you needed a calmer one, you had the calmer one. If you needed one that needed to jump around, you had that one as well. But it's complicated, you know. They don't really do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. So you're at the mercy of their mood.
Solo act?
Yeah, now.
Now? Used to what? Work with a cat? Every time he'd play a C major, he'd puke a hairball?
Talk about developing this character.
I had a lot of long speeches in this movie. I think a lot of them were cut. But I just kept doing it over and over, and sooner or later a voice had come into my head, and it was the character. Besides the normal voices that I hear in my head, it was the guy I could hear his voice, so I just started imitating him, and it just came to me organically.
He used to have a partner.
What happened?
Threw himself off the George Washington Bridge.
Well, I don't blame him. I couldn't take it either, having to play Jimmy Crack Corn every night. Well, pardon me for saying so. That's pretty stupid, isn't it? George Washington Bridge. You throw yourself off the Brooklyn Bridge, traditionally. George Washington Bridge. Who does that?
And along the way, I made up a little backstory for the guy just to amuse myself, fill in the cracks, figuring why he's as crabby as he is.
I'm interested in gigging here.
Okay, let's hear something.
You don't want to hear the record?
Why should I? You're here. Play me something.
Play me something from inside Llewyn Davis.
You had a chance to work with, Ethan on a play. Is that
6 plays.
6 plays? So a handful of plays, and then you got invited to work on this. What is it like working on just on a Coen production?
Heaven. Absolutely heaven. I really wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. I wouldn't be here otherwise. It was one day's work for me. I don't accept one day's work for people in the film. No, but for these guys, I'll do anything.
Talk about your character, Bud Grossman.
Just that he is absolutely, essentially, what people in the music business in that capacity are. Tough, hard, with a nose for talent, and also with a rapacious greed. A killing greed. And the way he treated him is exactly the way that world is. And it's partly in my world as well, in acting, but more in the music business.
In your world, and you've had a very distinguished career.
And it ain't over yet.
And no, of course not. I mean, but have you had to make those choices between kind of picking your craft and in the career? I mean, what's been the challenges for that with you?
Honey, you do what you have to do. I used to think it was beneath me to do certain things. You do what you have to do. I've washed dishes and I've set pins in bowling alleys. It's much better to do second-rate movies. It's much, much better.
this movie's very much about kind of about music, but acting seems to almost have kind of like a musical thread through it. You have like different notes that you're trying to reach and rhythms. Talk about maybe kind of the comparison of that.
Well, you're absolutely right. Not many people know that. But it's a musical score that I do when I work on the piece. I don't think of it consciously that way, but it always turns out that way. And that's how I memorize it, is almost as though it's music. That's very interesting and very perceptive of you. It's true.
What would you say to maybe an aspiring actor who's hoping to have half the success that you might have had in your career?
Don't be afraid. It's hard to do. Don't be afraid. Fight, get it, do it, whatever it takes.
Is against me, and the wind blows hard, and rain, she's a turning into hail. I still might strike it lucky on a highway going west. No, I'm traveling on a path.
What do you think is the overall kind of arcing message of Inside Llewyn Davis?
I think the overall message is the importance of the artist to the culture. For me, I'm not speaking for the Coens, but we live in a time where the engineers have tried to take over the culture. And the engineers, scientists by definition, don't have the ethical foundation to be able to order society the way they've been trying to. Scientists are supposed to be ethically neutral. But our communication system, as we've seen, needs to be set up ethically. The corporations, the corporate electronic universe is trying to take over the world, really.
So it's definitely a whole new world as far as music goes.
It is. It's a completely new world. It's the electronic universe is much more pernicious than the mechanical universe of the last century.
When I go back Baltimore, need no carpet on my floor. Come along and follow me. We'll go down to Galilee. Everybody, green.